everyone. Welcome to 7 Gen Live. We're back. I'm so excited to be back with you guys. Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm good. What's going on? It's awesome to be back. How are you doing in this new year?
Oh my gosh. So, I'm sure just like everybody else, we're all really looking forward to the new year, and we kind of jumped into some craziness right off the bat. But aside from the state of the nation, just within my own like home life and personal self, I've been really excited and kind of recharging for. I feel really recharged for the new year, and I've kind of set some goals in place for myself. So, what about you? What's the vibe for you for 2021?
It's a super weird vibe. I don't know, 2021. Like on the one hand, I don't know if other people feel this way, but the calendar changed, and now I'm kind of like, all right, cool. Maybe things are going. So, and then look, we can't even get around it. Like, why am I getting a message from friends and my wife saying what is happening in Washington, D.C.? I mean, that's a freaking crazy way to start the year. So I don't know. It already feels pretty strange. It feels unsettled. I think there's like this hope, a lot of hope that's coming, and then also a lot of uncertainty of, how are things going to get better? How are we moving forward and what's going on? So, I mean, on a personal note, shout out to my youngest brother. He guilt tripped the hell out of me and has me doing push-ups and sit-ups and stuff. So I'm not going to call it a resolution, but I am going to call it, some kind of thing that's going on. I'm 2 days in, and that's really good. So I feel solid about that.
Awesome. That's good. Well, just for everybody who's watching on today's episode, we're here to really just discuss some ideas and topics that you guys would like to see on our show here on 7 Gen Live throughout 2021. So if you care to share, please just leave a comment, or you can actually join this webinar right now, and you can come on live with us on the show by just clicking the link. And you can come on the show, and we just want to hear everyone's ideas, maybe people that they want to see on the show who are doing great things in the community or all over Indian country. So please feel free to share that information with us. We've kind of had this responsibility of reaching out within our own circle of who we think would be great to have on 7 Gen Live, but we would like to expand that. So if you have ideas, again, please feel free to share. We're also going to talk a little bit about, like we were just saying, the state of the nation and all the chaos that's going on. But again, it's going to be a little bit of a short show today, but I feel excited. I feel pumped. I feel recharged. If you care to share in the comments on Facebook, what are some of your New Year's goals for the new year? And just to start us off, I will share just a couple of mine. Mine is I think 2020, everybody was so caught up in work, even though we were working from home, or, our schedules changed, all the changes that we had to go through. Work was just, it was chaotic for me personally. So this year I want to take some time to myself and really work on my own personal self-growth and self-development. And with that, it means actually taking time to sit and think about what my personal goals are, and to not just say, oh, I want to gain weight, or for some people it's lose weight, but to actually sit down and figure out how I'm going to do that, whether that's preparing my meals or working out more or whatever it is. So that's one big goal for me, is to just take time for myself and to be a kinder person. I mean, with, again, chaos of 2020, I really want to personally just work on being a kinder person. And that's in situations where maybe somebody's not being so kind to me. It's like, all right, do I want to respond back in a mean and negative way, or do I just want to try to take the high road and learn something from that situation and respond in a kinder way, and to also help others? So what are some of your big goals for 2021, Mike?
That's a good question. I think in my life I moved away from setting like New Year goal resolution, because I end up getting like, I just forget them, and then I don't do them, and then I feel really terrible about my life. So some of the things though I like have already started doing, which is why I feel good. Trends. I finished The Social Dilemma on Netflix, a documentary, the other week, and it was over break. I was like hanging out. For most people know, I have a beautiful 8-month-old little baby girl over here now. She's so much fun. She got 6 teeth and was moving around, and it is just a ton of fun to be around. But I noticed, and Margaret and I were talking about this. She's like, you spend like a lot of time on your phone, and you even when we're all hanging out, like you're on your phone a lot. So after that movie, I was like, I don't actually care that much if Google is tracking my internet activity. Like, that's not a concern to me. It probably should be, but I don't really care. But my overconsumption of Facebook and Facebook news feeds and those things, I don't feel like I have a handle on it. So I deleted the app from my phone. I was like, I just like went way too extreme and just deleted it. But I think trying to find a better way to use tech, and especially like social media softwares and platforms, to use them as a tool. I like to think that I'm having these great conversations and I'm learning all these things, and half the time, like, I'm really not. I see the same old people posting the same old things. I'm getting a lot of ads that I don't really actually want to see. I'm not really having conversations with people. So I think trying to reanalyze that in this new year of how I can stay connected and how I can participate in the virtual community, but really like ground myself in what's in front of me and the people in front of me and the conversations that I should be having. Trying to do a little bit more of that. So I think that's one big one. And the other one, like I said, I'm not even 30 yet. I just turned 29 in the fall, and I'm like, my back's already hurting and I'm moving slow, and my child's not even a year old. So trying to get a little bit more active for myself. Nothing crazy, no big weight gain loss or gain goals, just keeping a little bit more active on a daily basis. I think that'll be big.
I love it. Those are some good ones. And I love that you brought up with the part about the social media, because I'm in that same boat. And I feel like I can't create my own stuff because I have everybody else's ideas within me because of what I see on social media. So any tips and tricks that you have, please share it with me, because part of our job is to be aware of what's going on in the world and what's going on around us. And we find that through social media, but I don't want to be on social media all the time. So any tips and tricks that you got, feel free to share, throughout 2021.
I'm gonna have to, because just think like 7 Gen Live. Like, we launched this whole show because of the pandemic and because the virtual space was really the only way that we were even seeing people. Even if we're not actually seeing them, it was the closest we could be to having some of these conversations. But it's not the same. And at the end of the day, like, we don't want people on their screen hours and hours a day. Like, you want people to be out participating in life and with their family. And so I think even like on a personal level, and even good through work too, trying to figure out like, how do we balance, like, how do we actually use this as a tool to help people like live life more fully. And you're not going to live your life more fully spending 16 hours a day on Facebook.
No way.
That definitely isn't how it's going to go. So I don't know. One thing I had been asking a friend, I'd be curious where you get your news from and information from, because I was like, I told somebody like, my Facebook newsfeed is not a reliable source of news. Like, I can't even read half this stuff. It's no good. So I was wondering that, and a friend told me that they actually follow some international news outlets, because one of the things they told me, they were like, the US is so wild right now. There's so much going on. It kind of feels hopeless at times, but there's a whole world outside of our neighborhood and outside of our country. There's like other countries all over the world who are doing things. So they told me that they were reading news outlets from other countries, and they would actually get news on the US and on other countries from these news outlets. So that's something I'm going to try and look into a little bit. Just kind of get a more global perspective on, what's going on, and opinions from outside our own country. But where do you go to get news? What's like sources that you like to go get information from?
Well, about a month ago, I heard that exact same tip from my brother. He said if you go to different news outlets here in the United States, you're just going to get different opinions about what's actually going on. And it's just all opinions. And that's not really what news is, in my opinion. But he said, yeah, just like reach out to like globally, and see what kind of information they're getting about the United States. So that is something I've been trying to do. And maybe I'll share some links with you because I Googled and I found some. I don't know the names of them because it's all new to me. It's all fresh, but I'll share some links with you. And maybe we could even share those links sometime in the future with 7 Gen Live. Because yeah, that's like a really, and it's a way to just keep your mind open and expanded. And, you know, the key is, I think in 2021 is to just really be open-minded with everything that's going on, and especially, you know, with this new vaccine that we'll probably be talking about here in just a bit. But let's talk a little bit more about the state of the nation right now, where it stands, what's happening at the state capitol. Just with what you've seen in the news, Mike, what are your thoughts? What are some of the first things that come to mind for you?
You know, I think a lot of my perspective comes from being a new dad. It really does come from having a little girl kind of come into the world, and thinking about you know, it doesn't, I don't know how I want to say it. It doesn't feel like we're on this given slope of progress, right? Like things are getting better. But no, like it really doesn't feel like that all the time to me at all. And you know, a lot of communities in our country like have known that. You know, I think a lot of white people especially are just finally waking up to like, wow, there's a lot wrong in this country. But I think seeing the pieces at the Capitol, I mean, it's disturbing. I think for myself, it's disturbing to think, like, on the one hand, I found it almost incomprehensible to be like, I can't believe this is happening. And on the other hand, I was like, oh yeah, of course that's happening. And it was like weird to feel both of those at the same time, that really as a country, we're in this strange place of people being unable to communicate, and being so firmly entrenched in whatever it is that they believe they can't even look outside themselves to hear that anything might be different. So I don't know. I think there's some real fear. I'd like to think things will get better as Joe Biden and new administration move in. Big wins in Georgia, you know, kind of really changed the political landscape of our legislative, you know, bodies. But I think that this shows me that there really is a group of people entrenched in our country who are just harmful, causing a lot of harm. So I don't know. How about you? What was going through your head when you're seeing everything?
Well, you mentioned Georgia, so I just wanted to bring up real quick that O.J. Siemens, who was on 7 Gen Live in the past last year, he was actually, I think they brought him on MSNBC to talk about the importance of minority votes and how it has made a difference in this election. So if you ever get the chance, you can just Google it. It's on MSNBC, and OJ Siemens, just type his name and it pops up. So it's really cool to check out because he's from here, Rosewood Sioux Tribe. So quick plug there. I'm right with you, Mike. I mean, I wasn't really surprised. I would honestly say it's something like in the late of the year 2020. I was like, what's gonna happen? You know, something big's gonna happen, and sure enough, it did. So I wasn't really surprised, but the reaction of some of our leaders of the country, that was really surprising, because it's almost like they didn't. I feel like there was more they could have done to stop this from happening. So I got to see, like, I think we all got to see the true definition of white privilege right there in front of our faces. And a lot of times we hear, as far as when it comes to Indigenous people, you always hear people say like, oh, that was in the past, it doesn't matter anymore, let it go. Well, now everybody gets to see it with their own eyes. And I know, and we all know, that had those protesters have been of color, the outcome would have been way different. And it's not like we want to see people die and get hurt and see all this violence against them, but that's exactly what happens to people of color when they're in that same situation protesting. So it wasn't surprising. I mean, in the past, we've seen Gray Cloud here from the Rosebud Sioux tribe. He staying in Congress in order to honor those who voted against the Keystone Pipeline. And he was arrested on the spot right then and there. So you have all these different situations where you can compare them to others and the outcome is totally different. So
you only have to look back at look at the land back movement and look at the Black Hills piece, and you have Nick Tilson facing up to 18 years in prison for leading and a group of land protectors up in the Black Hills. And just contrast that and the swift, immediate action with armed police force, right? Full SWAT gear, shields. I mean, we're talking like, like military style resistance there. And then you have people actually storming the doors of the country. And, what are we seeing? Like a slap on the wrist and actually encouragement from political leaders. It's where we're at. It's very disturbing. And I don't know, at least on the other hand, it makes me feel good that there is so much momentum behind people like Nick and behind Black Lives Matter movement and behind these other grassroots kind of movements that are happening. And it makes me think that we're hopeful, at least, that newly elected leaders who, exactly like you said, community of color are essential to putting some of these people in office to say, now do your job. Now start crafting policy and legislation that supports these communities and that starts building a more equitable country across the board. So I'm hopeful. I'm holding out hope for that. I think the challenge for myself will just be to continue to be like, how do I as an individual also participate in that process of bringing about that world and using my own, my own privilege and my own power as a person to continue to have those conversations. So.
Yeah, very well said. And no matter what, we just have to remain optimistic, no matter how difficult it is. And, it's something that's what brings change, is remaining optimistic and actually changing. So we have to do that as individuals as well. But we're here on the show to talk about some future topics or people who you would like to see on the show in the future of 2021. So I have a small list of my own. One of the big things that I would like to see, and something that I'm struggling with deciding on my own right now, is this vaccine. I would like to bring somebody on 7 Gen Live who actually has really good knowledge about this vaccine and its short-term and long-term effects, because it's getting to the point now where many of our people here on the Rosewood Sioux tribe have already received the vaccine. And I know it's going to reach me pretty soon. I already have, work kind of asking me about it. And I don't know what to do. I don't, I've looked at the studies and some of the side effects, but there's really no answer to the long-term side effects. And one of my biggest concerns is I am a woman, I do not have kids yet, and I want to have kids in the future. So I don't know if there's any like fertility issues. That's just one big concern for me. So that is one topic I would like to see here on 7 Gen Live talked about. Also, I continuously want to hear about updates from the Lakota Immersion School here in Mission, because it's so new, and I want to see the progress that is happening at the school, because it is continuously progressing in a good way. So I would like to hear updates on that. And then also on my notes here, I also want to talk about on 7 Gen Live how other tribes can come together to support one another if something like this pandemic happens again. Because it seems like through this pandemic, we really had to rely on the government, and maybe we could have helped each other more and saved some lives if we were able to rely on each other as far as other tribes go. So I would like that to be some sort of discussion in the future. And then lastly, I also want to talk about how employers here on the Rosebud Sioux tribe could be more supportive to their employees as far as helping them within their individual growth. Whether that's, okay, they're already at the job, but are they going to stay at that job for the next 10 years and get paid the same? Or is their employee going to help them progress and get raises and move up in the line? I would like to see employers talk about how they will support their employees get childcare, because that's a lot of people can't work here because they don't have childcare. I would also like to see them encourage their employees to get well as far as their physical health goes, maybe have a small gym in the workplace that they can schedule for people to work out through the day. Maybe hire a dietitian to share knowledge on how to eat correctly, because we all know we have a lot of people who are overweight, who are diabetic. So it is a big issue here, and employers need to be more supportive of that. And then lastly, time off for their employees to go to school, because we need to get our people educated. And we have a school right here on the reservation. So we should be encouraging our employees to get educated and to move up within the world. So those are some of my topics that I had in mind for the future of 7 Gen. What about you, Mike?
Awesome. Those are some good ones. Kind of speaking of education, for anyone looking for Sante, registration going on. So if you're interested in taking classes, you can get signed up. I don't know if you're taking any classes. I took a couple last semester, and this semester's registration was even like 10 times easier than last one. Somebody called me and I signed up, and it took 15 minutes, checked in with my advisor, and it was great. So shout out to SGU there, but if anybody interested in taking classes, jump in. Registration's going on now. Yeah, those are good ones. I mean, I love the idea of the how do you turn the workplace into something that supports people as individuals and their families, and kind of looking at the whole person. I think if you look at any of these super fancy companies, your Googles of the world, your giant Apples of the world, I mean, they have those kinds of programs for their employees, and it would be amazing to see what we can kind of put our head together to build for our own community here. I know this month is going to be big around education and talking about Indigenous education, and what does that look like, and what does that need to look like. So we have, last year it was SB 66. It was the community school legislation that was proposed to the South Dakota legislature. It was essentially to provide funding for communities to launch Indigenous based schools, built, based around the kind of Ocheti Shakoni essential understandings curriculum, if people are familiar with that, but to kind of give more control over what type of education parents and families and Indigenous communities want for their children, one that really is grounded, in cultural and community values. So that is, it was ultimately killed in the legislature last year, in the South Dakota House, but it was extremely successful at moving through the Senate. It had unanimous approval moving out of the Education Committee and passed the Senate. And I think they will be introducing legislation again this year around that. It would be huge to be able to get that kind of support for schools, to offer more of that type of education. So that's something that I know we have plans to talk to some people this month about that bill, and how each of us can support. I think I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to kind of see what else we have going on in terms of vaccine. That was a good one. Keep an eye out. Keep an eye out for the MGH Boston Doctors page. Keep an eye out on our Sichungu CDC page. I know that the Boston Docs and the Health Initiative on our side are working on some presentations around vaccines, and they're going to be releasing some of those on Facebook. So talking more generally about vaccines, and then digging in specifically with some good information on the COVID stuff. So that'll be a good one just as a source of information. But yeah, I'm excited to see what 2021 will bring. I mean, one of the pieces I'm most interested to talk about on the show is Joe Biden got elected. The Democrats won. Now what? Like, is life going to get better? What do we actually want to see get better? I got an email this morning saying that people were kind of asking us, like, what kind of progressive policies do you want to see around, say, food and agriculture? So I think being able to have a conversation around Deb Haaland now, Secretary of the Interior. That's huge. What does that look like? What do we hope actually starts to happen now? What are some of the changes we would hope to see? I would love to bring some people on and talk about that and hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, I love it. Oh my gosh, there's so much to look forward to. And I wanted to share a comment from Michelle Leno. She commented on the Sicangu CDC Facebook page, and we really appreciate any comment that comes onto the page. She suggested that we need to get our kids back in school. And I know a lot of people feel the same way. So hopefully, you know, with this vaccine, that could start happening. But again, just like you said, Mike, there's so much in the unknown right now. So it's just a matter of a lot of patience and understanding and coming together to support each other in the current situation that we are in right now with our kids, you know, going to school from home. I know there are some communities, as far as like off the reservation, who are in school. So it's different for everybody, but we just have to come together and support each other the best way that we can. So I don't see any other comments on the Facebook page at this moment, but in the future, if something comes to mind, you have a topic that you feel like you would want to hear more about or to hear discussions about, then send us a message on the Sicangu CDC Facebook page. You could send it to me or Mike personally. We answer back on our Facebook messengers. So please share, you know, whatever ideas and topics that you have. We would love to hear it. And is there anything else, Mike, that you would like to cover before we end the show here? It was a quick one, quick 30 minutes, but it was a good one.
Oh, I think that feels good to me. I was telling Jillian I had to shake out my show nerves. I haven't been on Facebook in a while. So a short one to ease back in feels good. One of our coworkers today has been, he didn't personally give it, but he showed up to our meeting and looking all cool. So I was like, damn, maybe the New Year's resolution, I'll be trying to put some more button ups on for our shows, but we'll see. If I get some cool t-shirts, I might have to dress down. But it's good to see everybody. It's really good to be back. I'm excited for this year. I just hope everybody, you know, as always, looking for everyone to have good health and goodness in their families. So hoping that everybody has that, whether it's after the new year, after solstice, that things are good for people all around. And I'm excited to see what we got coming for this year. I think the show will be good, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, I'm right there with you, Mike. Really looking forward to 2021. Again, we must remain as optimistic as possible. I hope this is a reset for some of you, and no matter what your goals are, lose weight, be nicer, be kinder, whatever it is. If there's something you've been wanting to try, if you have a business idea or an idea for a hobby, the best way to get started is to just simply do it. So, all right, so we're good. All right, guys, we will check you out next Friday at 1 p.m. That's when the show is, every Friday at 1 o'clock. So don't forget to tune in to 7 Gen Live. All right, guys, we'll see you soon. Doksha.
Awesome. Doksha. See y'all.